Hi everyone, welcome back to Tarot Insider. This is Dax Carlisle, President of the Tarot Guild, and of course joining me as always, Susanne Warnett.
Susanne. Hi everybody, thank you for joining us this week.
Yes, it's exciting. We have a fabulous guest and a fabulous show planned for you. We're going to be talking decks, of course, and I thought I'd mention, because I just saw on Facebook that Ciro Marchetti is now taking pre-orders for his Tarot Grand Lux.
Ooh.
His latest deck, probably his magnum opus deck. It's just phenomenal. So if you go over to ciromarchetti.com/tarot, that's the page that has the Tarot Grand Lux. And there's some really cool add-ons that he has, spread cloths and boxes and bags and that all match. And the other neat thing is you can get a personalized deck where on the back it has your name on the back side.
We'll have to see if we can get him on the show.
We need to get him on the show
because we're all about the tarot.
Yeah. And you know, he did the artwork for the Tarot Guild website, tarotguild.org, for instance. You can check that out. So, ciromarchetti.com. Go check it out. Suzanne, you want to introduce our fabulous guest that we have with us today?
Yeah, I am so excited about today's show. So one of the perks of being me right now is I get to look around and keep my eyes open for really interesting decks and books that are coming out. We've had some great guests on the show already, but today we're going to be chatting with a lady who's created, she's an artist, she's created a deck. Let's bring her on. This is Cathy McClelland. Hi Cathy, how are you doing?
Happy.
Hello. I'm doing great, thank you. Happy to
That was the worst introduction ever because I was really trying hard not to fangirl here. Now you're...
Fangirling, she is.
Totally. Now I've got your little, I'm going to hold this up to my camera. You are the creator of the Star Tarot, which is so cool. It's totally exciting. So yeah, and we've got my deck here. It's all pretty and I just keep stroking it. I won't lie, I've done some test readings and the results are phenomenal. So thank you for joining us today, Cathy. I'm going to dive right in though, because you are an artist as well as creating this deck. So I kind of wanted to know, we'll start with the tarot side of things. Just how were you drawn to the tarot? How did that come about?
Okay, so I'm going to start at the stage when I was a kid because I was like always attracted to the magical and mystery of life and nature and what have you. And coupled with that, I had these two great aunts. One of them was my great aunt Clara, and she was gifted with psychic abilities and prophetic dreams, and I would go visit her. And on one of my visits to her, I was coming down for breakfast, and I went into the breakfast room, and she was sitting there with another lady, and this lady was reading her cards. I must have been about 10, and I had never seen anything like that before, so they invited me to sit down. I watched, and they asked me if I would like to have my cards read. Sure. And it really kind of sparked my interest at that time. Even though I was raised real strict Catholic, you know, that was like, no type of thing. But it's just still, that's kind of where it started, the interest. On the other side, my great Aunt Grace, they were sisters, was a devout Catholic, but she didn't really go for the masculine aspects of the Catholic Church. She was more involved in the feminine side of the Virgin Mary and what have you. And so that energy of those two, of the mysticism behind the feminine and then the magical thing of the reading the cards, kind of started sparking my energy to other areas in the esoteric. And so it went on to where I started collecting decks when I was probably about 12 with the Gypsy Witch cards. I think were my first ones.
Right.
Then there was the Rider-Waite deck, and it went on from there. In my 20s, I got the Palladini deck, the Aquarian deck, which I really loved, and I started reading for family and friends at that point. And so it kind of went on, and then in the early 90s, I mean, tarot was always part of my life, but I was doing everything else as well.
Right, yeah.
It was life in general.
Yeah.
And it was always kind of a sidebar to things. But in the 90s, I decided, I think I would like to paint my own deck. And it wasn't like the whole deck. I thought, well, I'll just paint the majors, because to me at that time they had the most symbology around them, what have you. And so I started off with the Fool, and these paintings ended up being very large, like 20 inches by 30 inches. They were taking up to 3 months to do. So after with the Emperor, I decided I'm taking a break.
Right, yeah.
Break took 10 years to come back to where I decided to most of the major arcanas. And so I decided to put myself up on a deadline, because I work really well with deadlines. And,
Right.
So I set myself for a year, and then I had an exhibit after that, that year. So I was done, and I got all the paintings done, and as well as doing the writing and setting the show up there. So here they were at the show with the plaque next to it. They had all the meanings and what have you, and it was interactive with the numerology aspect that Angelus Arendt brought in.
Oh, cool.
The book. Yeah, so it was really successful. And then 2 years after that, that's when I decided to self-publish and go and put it out. So that's kind of in the nutshell what happened.
And did the artwork for the paintings, did they change much in the process of actually self-publishing the deck, or was it literally as you took it off the canvas?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say, with your exhibition, because one of the things that really drew me to your deck was the artwork. So I was just wondering, did the artwork change at all from doing the exhibition to actually turning them into a deck, or is it exactly translated?
They were exactly translated. And so
that's quite cool.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to document all my artwork, so every time I finish something, it's photographed not by me, but by a professional. And so that was a library of art. And so when it would go to, to publishing or to making a print of something, I mean, this is true for all the art that I do, I have a good scan of that to work from.
That's good. Actually, my brother's an artist, and he always said it's so important to document your artwork, because apart from, I mean, they were taught it at art college for copyright infringement as well, but he said it's interesting to see how you progress, and projects that he'd start even 6 months ago. He said, just my perception of it has changed so much. So I guess really, because tarot is quite a big project, were there any cards in particular that just, I want to use the phrase, were waiting to be born? They just wanted to flow, or were there some that were quite tricky?
Yeah, well, I think just getting started with the Fool was the hard, I think anything when you start a project, it's kick-starting that project, getting going. Yeah. And once you get that energy moving, then it just keeps going and growing and evolving. But the card that really just I took off in was the Empress.
Right, yes.
Everything in there. I just kept on adding and adding to it. It just felt right. And so she was completely embellished. and full of energy and pregnant with the cosmos and just really strong presence. In fact, I have her in my entryway when you walk in my house. She's your greeter.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
She is. I'm just trying to, I've been playing with this deck and doing readings, like I said, and they're all out of sync now. I'm trying to find it so I can show people. But what I like about your deck, to be honest, is the fact that, oh, there's the Empress. See, I knew she was beautiful. Let me just see if I can hold this up for people.
Yeah.
That's the Empress card, and she's just so, so beautiful.
And she was one of the ones, like I was saying, one of the 5 that were painted these at this oversized size. So like I decided to do the rest of the 17 and complete them in a year. I had to bring the size down. So they were all painted at like 17 by 11 by
Right.
17. So there was the Empress, and some of those larger paintings have a ton of detail in it that, I mean, they all do, but they were painted so much larger that you could.
Yeah.
No, even the ones that are the smaller sizes have a lot of imagery in there as well.
Well, that's the thing. I'm looking through this deck, and I keep thinking, oh, I didn't spot that last time, and I think that's one of the signs of a good tarot deck, when it reveals its secrets to you over time. It becomes a relationship then, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and that is a key. That's something that I really wanted to happen. That happens for me in most of all my artwork, is that the more that you look at it, the more it comes out. It's like a layer. You keep peeling the layers off of it, and it keeps peeling deeper and deeper layers. So you can take it for the face value, and then the more that you meditate on it, it becomes it has its own life.
And I mean, you were talking there about the Fool card, and I'm just going to show everybody this one as well, because normally with a tarot deck, you've got everybody kind of knows the Fool. It's the vagabond. He's normally got his worldly goods on his shoulder. There's the butterfly that he's chasing. There's the dog yapping at his heels. He's invariably about to step off a cliff into the unknown. And then we get your card, and I just looked at it and I'm like, oh, I can relate to this so much more. Let me
Let us see it already.
There we go.
See, I like the size and the shape of the deck.
Yeah, from a practical point of view, exactly, because they're sized more like oracle cards than tarot cards. You get a lot more visual impact with them. That's, from a reader's perspective, that's something that I quite like.
Yes.
But it was, I just looked at the raven, and I looked at the alligator, and I'm just like, that says so much to me. But then I've had conversations with people, because I've put the review on the website and everything, and people have been saying to me, well, yeah, but to me, the alligator means this and that. And I guess that's one of the aspects when you release a deck to the public, is everybody's perception changes. How are you finding people are kind of responding to it, Cathy?
Well, I've had really good responses. When I put out the major only deck and booklet, that just, people were just blown away with it. And they loved the way that I took the imagery and the themes for it. I haven't heard anything really on the downside of it thus far. Keep my fingers crossed. But people are loving the colors, the symbolism, and the direction that I have taken the deck. I mean, it's different. It is. When I look at it now, not so much when I was doing it, that wasn't the idea. It was part of the idea to refresh it and to bring it up to where we are now as a consciousness, and to bring in more of the feminine and nature and the cosmos, and to overlap all those different layers. But I think the result has been received really well, bottom line.
Yes. Yeah, it's certainly the feedback that I've been getting from it. People can't wait to get their hands on it. And
Yeah.
I have had people sort of, can you not just sort of come round and do a reading for me? And I'm like, you have to wait. You
Well,
have to
that's what
wait.
I'm hoping that as far now it's time to, like you were saying, you were just starting to work with them to see how they all work together, because
Yes.
I just got it recently too, and I have it now here, in the deck form. Yay. And so it's just been recent that I've been able to really appreciate it as a deck versus just the artwork that I've done.
And has that changed your perception of it now that you see it? It's not this sort of concept. This is a real product now.
Exactly. It's not this big, huge project. It's working 20 years plus on. It's all of a sudden come together and into a real form. And so it's very exciting for me to see that. And truly, I'm not, I've read cards, but I'm not a card reader, but I understand the whole theme with the tarot and symbolisms and, all the readings and what have you. But I want to play with this more to understand how this all works together.
And
I pull cards on a daily basis versus doing readings for myself.
yeah, no, that makes sense actually. That makes sense. And I think this is the kind of deck that you can do that with. A lot of tarot decks, I've tried pulling cards of the day for myself and for sort of the website and things. And some decks, it really doesn't work. It's almost like they're too static. But with this, there's so many elements that will talk to you at different stages.
Yeah.
I just wondered I know you've gone into a lot of the feminine aspects. And I wanted to mention one of the things I love is with your minors, your court cards. Like, yes, we've got that balance between the male and female. Sure, we've got the king and the queen, but instead of the page and the knight, we've got the prince and princess.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you, because that's a whole aspect that as a female reader, as a feminist, it's kind of, like you say, it's felt very patriarchal, a lot of the decks and that kind of thing. Like it was, there was an inherent imbalance to it, whereas this, with your deck, it feels a lot more balanced.
Well, that's what I was hoping to do. And with the pages, who are now the princess and princesses, I really felt that they represent such a beginning stage of our development. And at that time, we are exploring the masculine and the feminine, and, so I really wanted to say, well, they're not all going to be male aspects, they're going to be both. And that's why I wanted to, so the swords and the wands, those would be those creative forces, the mental forces of the masculine side, and then the feminine qualities of really bringing in, the ace quality through the prince and the princess of their suit. So they're the beginning stages of like really learning about themselves and those different aspects of, like, say, the princess of cups or the princess of pentacles. And then I associated them with the inner child in all of us that I think it's important because, our inner child, when it's in its innocent stage, is so full of life and creativity and open, and then boom, we get, inundated with everybody else's ideas and what have you. So I wanted to keep the prince and princesses more on a fresh stage of the court cards. Like, here we are, we're ready to experience life, and, give us anything you got, and we'll see how we can integrate it into our own particular suit.
It's a really nice energy shift that you sort of see while you're doing the readings. So it'll be interesting to see what everybody else thinks. Like you say, because it's not out yet, is it?
No, it'll officially be coming out next week.
Next week, that's right, because it got nudged back a little bit, didn't it? So I got an advance copy. But yes, certainly the feedback from everybody that's contacted me and through the guild and everything has said that they're really excited by the artwork and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I know that originally the Majors Only deck was self-published, wasn't it? How did you find that process?
Okay, so I was lucky enough because my husband owns a graphic art business, and I used
Always handy.
yes, and I used to be a graphic artist as well. Which
Okay.
I don't do anymore, so I designed the cards, and then he went print shopping for a good printer, because it's really hard at the time that happened to find a printer who would do limited amounts of a run, and
Right.
rounded corners and that many different images. So I think the first round, I did it 2 times. The first round we used a color printer,
Okay.
cardstock, and then the edges were square. And when that edition sold out, which I think might have been about 200, it wasn't a huge amount. Then we found a printer who would do rounded corners, and he printed all the cards front and back, and they came out really well. Then we would do the booklet, on a copier, with the color copy, the cover, and then the inside would just be copies, and then we'd staple them together. I mean, it was all a lot of hands-on work, putting things together.
I love that.
Stuffing envelopes and what have you. So it was a lot of work, but it was a good way to get introduced, out there. And I had a website, and that's kind of how I sold them, through my website, or doing shows. As an artist, I also do art shows, like going around art festivals is what I want to say. So I'd sell them there as well, and they could see the original paintings, and hear it.
Yeah.
Now, versus the going with the big publisher. Okay, so when I was decided to do the complete deck, I had a couple of the minors done, minors like all the way to the 3s, I think, and I decided, okay, well, I think I'm ready to submit. So I had the majors done and a little booklet, and then a couple of the minors. And I decided, well, let's see, who else should I pick? Llewellyn. Okay, they have a lot of cool decks and what have you. And so I got rejected. I thought, okay, I guess I'm not ready to do this, and I need more artwork and more of the bulk of the whole deck to really submit. So I was just working on that, and then I went to the San Francisco Tarot Symposium.
Okay.
And, that was like in 2011, and lucky enough, I was my booth was next to Schiffer Publishing. Okay. So
that's a bit of synchronicity.
it was. And the fellow that was manning Schiffer's booth, he was kind of new. He didn't really know many people in the symposium. And so my friend and I befriended him, and we kind of hung out. And at the end, I said, well, what do you think about this deck? Would your company be interested in it? He goes, yeah, they might be. So how do you approach them? He goes, well, through me. Just send a proposal to me. And so I did, and then 2 months later I signed a contract. So it was a lot of synchronicity involved, definitely.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it was, and I also believe in, just universal timing. It's just things, it's like kismet. It just starts working together.
Absolutely. And I kind of totally believe that if something is meant to happen, everything will eventually come together. It might not feel it at the moment.
Well, one of the people that has been a major influence for me in the tarot world, who really got me going in the tarot world, is Mary Guerre, who is kind enough to write the foreword in my book.
I noticed that, yes.
So I want to tell you a real quick story about how I met her and how everything kind of unfolded. She reads cards as well, and my girlfriend and I wanted a card reading for our birthdays, and someone suggested seeing this gal that was about an hour and a half away from where we lived. So my friend made the appointment, and we went, and I was the first one to get a reading. So I stepped into this room that was full of the library that she had was incredible. It had everything, tarot, esoteric, numerology, symbology. It was just like eye candy, you know. She did my reading for me, and I told her that I had done a major only deck, and I gifted her one. And then I asked her if I could take some of the books and read them on the porch while my friend was getting her reading done. So she picked a few for me on symbology. And I started going through the books on the front porch and reading about one symbol thing. I don't recall what it was. And there was her name, Mary Guerre. And all of a sudden was like, I just met Mary Guerre, who I'd read tons of her books prior to ever meeting her.
Right, yeah.
So from then, I couldn't wait to tell her I knew who she was at that point. Such a goof. But anyway, she is the one that told me about the San Francisco symposium, and it was the largest one on the West Coast at that time, that I really should, pursue this and also get into, become a member of Eclectic Tarot as well.
Right.
So it was so synchronistic that I met her, and then the things that happened after that, and we kept in contact off and on, to present.
Sure.
And so she has been a real big influence with me, but, just getting me out there in the world again.
Yeah. Yeah, because I noticed, like a lot of tarot readers and tarot collectors, I follow her blogs and her writing and everything, and she's, honest to goodness, there is nothing that lady doesn't know about so many different subjects.
And I felt really honored, too, because she used one of the tarot major card images on top of her blog at the time, just, just because she liked that particular image. So I was like,
yeah.
Oh, I guess I'm on the right track. I started with this blindly, this whole project, like, I'm an artist. I want to do my own deck because I want to see what I'm going to come up with, not having any attachment to ever coming to this kind of thing, with a book, because I'm an artist first and a writer second. I'm just, I struggled with that, but you just have to work it like anything else.
Yeah. I mean, as an artist, how much, this might be a stupid question actually, I'm going to ask it anyway. How much would you say sort of intuition and the subconscious is involved in artwork? Because I'm going to be honest, I have no artistic ability whatsoever. My brother, I love him to pieces, but I'm so jealous because he got all the artistic skill in the family. And I can barely draw stick figures. So, and I've quizzed him about artwork, but he has a very analytical, masculine brain when explaining things. So how much is the sort of the subconscious and the intuition, how much of a role does that play when you're creating artwork? Not just for the tarot, but for your other projects as well.
It's huge. It starts like this. You get an inspiration. This is how it works for me. And then you're like, okay, let's see. Now this needs to come down and be put on a sketch on a piece of paper. So the inspiration to me is like a spark from, the creator. And then once that gets into you, then it's like you're kind of opening up a channeling thing. And all of this other information starts going through the color. So when I started painting, I have a sketch and a drawing and I've composed it, but the result, I really never know exactly how it's going to come out. I really have to trust what's coming through. And so it is like an intuitive process for me, definitely.
And I'm trying to think how I'm going to phrase this sentence now, because the one thing that I noticed with your deck is that it's actually sparked something in my own intuition, which is kind of, it's like, oh, yay.
Good.
Because I used to work with a light worker who'd kind of fallen by the wayside. She felt that, she used to do a lot of spiritual churches and that kind of thing. And she said, I ended up feeling like a performing monkey, and I kind of turned my back on it. And she's actually somebody that I met out here in America. Mm-hmm. And I was looking for somebody to take my psychic abilities to a new level. I felt that I'd gone as far as I could without, sort of by myself, without any external influence. And she was looking for the same thing. And although we were approaching things from different angles, through chatting, we found that our techniques were similar, our intentions were similar when we started working. And I was getting great results, not just in my tarot, but in my dream work, in my meditation, with it more, and everything kind of went quiet. It's like any skill, isn't it? If you don't use it, you lose it. With this deck, it's kind of sparking everything up. And I think that's probably going to be, I'll be interested to chat to you in maybe 6 months' time, once your deck is on the market, just to see kind of the ripples that it's going to have through the tarot readers that are using it, because the imagery, like I said before, the imagery is very unusual in many respects. It's how do you do it? It's traditional, but it's modern, but it feels really ancient as well. I don't even know how to describe that. So what kind of, just where did the ideas come from? What sort of influences were you working with there?
Okay, so
sorry, that was a really roundabout way of getting to that question. I'm really sorry,
I totally get what you're saying, because I'm glad that it's having that effect on you. That's what I threw my heart and soul into these paintings, and they take you here and there and everywhere. That's the process. But how it happened is that I would read as much as I could, tarot books, authors, and just pull in as much as, just different ideas, concepts, whatever, from across the board, and then sit with it, walk in the woods, meditate, and then whatever started flowing in, I'd start writing it down and doing sketches without judgment.
Right.
I just thought, okay, this is way different than what anything else is like, but I just feel it's right in my heart, and so I'm going to include it. And that's how a lot of it happened. And then, what's been funny, not only with the deck, but also with other artwork, is that by using that trusting factor, later down the road, it totally gets verified. Whether I be reading something or someone tells me something, it's just like, okay, I got it right. So it's like you say, the more that you exercise those muscles of intuition and what have you, the more in sync you get with it. And that is how that deck was created. I just did it in complete trust.
It's certainly interesting for me to see just what you can do when you kind of, hearing us through, when you just put your faith in your skill and in the universe.
Yes.
That everything does kind of come together. And I think that's something that as a society, a lot of us are kind of waking up to, aren't we, right now?
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of aspect. And I wondered if, you call it the Star Tarot.
Yeah.
Where did that name come from? I promised somebody I'd ask you that question.
Well, I've always loved the stars. Ever since I was a child, I'd just be fascinated with the night sky. And, as the stars in the universe, they're so vast and continually expanding. We are continually learning new lessons, and it's evolving and it keeps growing. And I feel like there's a star in each of us that is doing the same thing. The stars have influenced astrology, mythologies, gods and goddesses. It's just ancient knowledge. There's the star beings, there's the Milky Way, where creation is supposed to happen. There's so many things. The star is such a strong symbol in multicultures and religions. It just, for thousands of years, it just keeps coming back. And then, so it just seems resonant in me. I would believe, in my opinion, that we all came from the stars. And as I say, we have a star that helps us remember, once we're open to it, our destiny, our self-purpose, and what our true life should be on this earth plane where we are right now. And we just need to be open to that, find that inside of us. So that's where that whole concept came from. The theme of the star that weaves itself through the deck is about self-evolution.
That does make total sense, and I love that because it's the star is one of those things as well that, like you kind of said, it's both spiritual, but it's also based in the physical realm, isn't it? And it transcends so many different cultures.
Yes.
And the fact that as carbon-based life forms, and this is the extent of my science talk, by the way, but as carbon-based life forms, we are basically made up of stars. And as a child, I remember going to the planetarium and learning that and just kind of thinking, wow, my 9-year-old brain couldn't quite comprehend that. And I think that was another reason why I was kind of drawn to the name of the deck, because it did sort of get my inner child all fired up and excited and that kind of thing. And it's, like I say, it seems to have that reaction in a lot of people. They're like, oh, stars. I mean, who hasn't wished upon a star, right?
Yeah, the stars are just like, they just ignite your imagination, and to think broader about life and in general. They expand your thoughts, your mind, to go beyond.
Exactly, yeah.
To go beyond the doldrums of the day.
Yeah.
You look at a night sky full of stars, it just sets you into dreaming.
It does. And I remember, when I was sort of in my early teens, and that's a difficult time for a lot of people. Yes. And I just remember sitting out in my back garden looking up at the stars, and it made me feel really small and insignificant, but that was a positive thing for me, because it made me realize that my problems are not really that big. I was 13, 14 years old. How bad could my problems be? I had homework that night and the rabbit needed feeding, and I'd had a fight with my mum or something. My problems weren't big. But there's also that sense that no matter what we're going through now, those stars have watched billions of people go through exactly the same process, exactly the same problems, and come out the other side better for it. And I think there's an element of that, isn't there? I think with tarot, with the artwork, the sense that we're all sharing a human experience. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I personally love tarot, because you see the same experiences again and again and again, and everybody's got a slightly different take on it. Everybody will interpret the cards slightly differently. And it's really inspiring, actually. I'm thinking, God, why wasn't I creative? I'll have to get I'll commission my brother to help me create a tarot deck. This is what I need to do. Well, I'll drop that one on him tomorrow. It's his birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday, bro. You're helping me create a tarot deck.
My take on this is that we are all creative. I mean, some of us express it in art, some of us express it in the way they speak, someone expresses it in the way they make a beautiful dress or a cake or whatever, or just being who they are. We're all living creative lives,
Yeah.
We all have a super talent in some area, and that's your creative being.
Exactly. So I suppose now I've kind of had a bit of think about it. Were there any cards that you really struggled with the artwork for? I'm looking at that face. It's like, yeah.
Oh, I think I have that card right here too. That would be the devil.
Right, yeah.
And the reason, well, the devil card, the traditional image of it just was super uncomfortable for me. I just didn't like looking at it. And I was trying, when I was working with this card, I was trying to make it less uncomfortable, a little softer, this and that. And it was like, it's just not working. And I was just coming up empty-handed. I had a major block. You know, we all had the writer's block, artist block, whatever.
Yeah.
That one gave me the block. And I thought, okay, well, you know what? I've got to really dig deep and really embrace this card and what it really means, you know. And so I started looking at it in a different perspective. And I realized that this card was really alluring and very beautiful and transformative and extremely healing if you knew how to use it. The fact that Capricorn is the astrology symbol of that card, I kind of want to start with that, is when you look at that, that is a card, a sign that talks about focus and ascension and going and doing the highest good, you know, going towards your highest good in anything that you're doing. And then the planet is associated with the Saturn. Well, Saturn deals with your karma and hard work. Well, if you're not following your true dharma, guess what? Everything seems so much harder and what have you. And if you're not following your true purpose, then you're not following your destiny or your dharma. And so you are getting chained to other people's thoughts, what they think and what you think that you should have. And it takes you totally off course of what you should be doing in your life. And so then we get chained to all these material aspects of things of life. And so once I started realizing that, and then also the in this card that I ended up painting, the Devil's card, is the Kundalini, waking up the Kundalini within yourself, which is all about passion and fire and living, big, and a lot of people are afraid of that. And so if you're able to be in balance with your Kundalini, then you living your life in passion, then you are living life to its fullest. And we probably all know this, but devil, spelled the opposite, is lived, living your life fully. So to me, it's a kind of a scary card, but with a beautiful lesson to it. And that's my take on it. So it's actually, it's like a little warning card, not a little warning card, a major warning card. If you're going down the road of like, I just need more and more and more stuff, and my cup will never be full. It'll always be half empty because I'm going to have to keep filling up with more and more. Then you're never going to be satisfied in life. So it's a card to bring your attention to where you are. Are you following your true path? Are you following what's true to your heart?
Yeah.
So that card was a big one.
That makes sense actually, because it is one of those cards that as a reader can be incredibly challenging. And when that card comes up when you're reading for somebody, particularly maybe a new client who you don't have the same rapport with, I kind of feel myself stealing myself and going, okay, today is the day for awkward conversations, because there is clearly something going on in their life that just isn't working for them. But they're, whether it's their work-life balance, whether it's relationships, their relationship with themselves, you see that card and you're like, oh, crikey, okay, today is the day we have this chat. And that's one of the reasons actually when I'm looking for a new deck, there are certain cards that I always focus in on.
Okay.
And I know Dax and I, we've had conversations about which cards we're kind of drawn to. Dax quite likes the Temperance card. For me, because I'm weird and because I used to be a bit of a goth girl, I'm always drawn to the Death card because I think it's quite misunderstood in many ways, isn't it? Because of pop culture, the Death card, we're going to die. Well, yeah, but not like in movies. And I'm just going to show people your Death card because I think this is one of the most positive Death cards I've seen in a long time, because you've got that phoenix rising, you've got the butterfly with its transformation and and its beauty from, let's be honest, the ugly caterpillar. You know, there's all these elements in there. And I think I've actually posted this one on our Tarot Guild blog to sort of show what it looks like. And yeah, people are just saying, okay, that's a death card that I can get behind, because it's not fluffy.
No.
Is it? You still got to face up to what's going on, but there's that hope underlying it.
Yes.
And you've already mentioned the Devil card there, and I always talk about the Dark Trilogy of Tarot, of being those two with the Tower as well, as I block myself out completely. And I think those three cards, they do challenge us all when they come up, don't they? But
right.
There's still that optimism there. I love the Dove of Peace in the bottom of that one.
I had to do that because, you know, with the Tower, it's like everything's falling apart. And but I remember reading somewhere, I think it was in the Angela's Aaron book, and one of her statements was about be kind to yourself.
Right, yeah.
In the Tower deck and the Tower card. And so that really impressed me, because when you are going through things like that, you have to be kind to yourself. You cannot just take the world on your shoulders and just, it's all my fault. As you know, we do have to take responsibility, but you know, this shall pass as well.
Yeah.
And so that is the dove flying through, you know, this is going to pass and bring peace back to your heart and to your family.
And I think that's probably the biggest message of hope, really, isn't it? It doesn't matter how bad things are, you can always turn things around. There's always something to be learned, something to grow from, and something that will carry forward, and you'll be able to bring that with you when the times are better as well. And I think that's why I love the imagery on that one. Again, I'm like, oh, let's see what she's done with the Tower. Oh, okay.
I'm glad to hear this.
Yeah, it's really refreshing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've got some really quite dark and gothic decks, and they have their place when you're doing readings. Sometimes they match the client, sometimes they match the situation. But it's nice to have a deck that is that tells it how it is, but still has that element of hope, still has that great spiritual element as well. Some of my decks that I work with are absolutely awesome, but they're so down to earth and straight down the line. They kind of leave no room for that spiritual aspect that you have when you're coming, you know, when you're going through life and stuff's going on. A lot of us need that spiritual path. We might not call ourselves religious, but we need that spiritual path. And that was another thing, actually, that I quite liked about your deck. I wanted to ask, was that a conscious decision? Because some decks can be quite overtly Christian. You know, you've got the devil in there, you've got your angels and all this kind of thing. And it's kind of full on in some decks. Whereas with yours, we have angels, but we have so many other different aspects as well coming in. How much was that a conscious decision?
It was definitely a conscious decision. I wanted to have the face value of every card, the good aspects and the challenging aspects, all in one. So you wouldn't really, I mean, I never liked to do reverses myself. And so okay, here's the card. And that's what I kind of liked, the thought deck that how Angela's did her interpretations of that. And so that's where I thought, that's what I want to do with mine. And so everything's there for you. But I also wanted to give people, you know, the spiritual guidance or spiritual hope outside any kind of religion, because basically it's about who we are. We all have free choice. We all have the answers within inside of ourselves. Sometimes we need spiritual guidance from, you know, another person or somebody within your church, or however you want to do that.
Yeah.
But basically, the bottom line is that we are the ones that are in control of our lives. And that's really the message here, is that if the more that you evolve spiritually, the more that you connect to nature and understand their cycles and the cycles that work in your lives, the more that you're going to understand yourself and live your life in a more evolved state. And that's what the whole point of the Star Tarot is about. It's really living your true Dharma.
Yeah, and it's one of the cards, because I talked about the Fool in my review, and what I liked about it was I looked at it, and like I said before, you've got your alligator there, you've got the ravens, you've got the butterfly, which most decks have, and I'm, from a pagan point of view, I'm thinking, okay, so you've got the raven there, there's so much symbolism surrounding them. Is that the death of our old life coming in to make way for the new adventure that you're on, with this being Fool card? It's the start of the adventure. But then there was a part of my brain that thought, well, Odin had ravens that helped him to see everything that was going on. Okay, that's a cool aspect of it. And even just looking at the first card in the deck, just to sort of try and get a grips to it, I straight away seen so many things there. The alligators, is that is that like the Egyptian gods, or and it's like, and this is what I think is going to be interesting. Like I said before, is seeing how people pick different strands, and it's going to mean so many things to different people.
Well, I chose to put a lot of animal symbolism in there because I think that people relate to animals on different levels. I mean, some people are reptiles, or ravens are scary things, but they're really not. If you really learn about them and what they do, they like, for instance, the raven in the Native American tradition is the bringer of light. It's the one that brings magic into your life. And up in the North Pacific, the raven is like the creator. He's the one that brought light to humanity so they could come out of their shells and grow and become a full human. So there's different takes on all these different animals. But it's part of the symbolism that I wanted to bring into the deck as well, because I think that without even having to read anything, your heart, your body reacts to the symbolism in the decks, in each image that I'm doing. Some people love, hummingbirds. They bring joy and happiness and promise. And, the eagle, he brings, he's closest to spirit. He can see the bigger perspective of things. I just thought that is a really wonderful way to help people open up themselves to symbolism in nature more.
Yeah, it's certainly going to become, I think, a very well used deck in my collection. For that reason, I'll just show everybody the deck again, because like I say, it's not out yet, is it? It's out next week.
Yes.
People can, if they go to your website, they can order it direct from you, can't they? Or it's going to be on Amazon and all the big booksellers and that kind of thing.
So they can order it directly from me, and that way I can autograph and personalize it for you. Or you can get it on Amazon from Shipper Publishing, I think. And then I think it's also on Barnes & Noble.
Awesome. So yes, from a practical point of view, like we mentioned before, card size, we're talking more like an oracle deck, so you get to really appreciate the artwork that's on it. Also, it's not gilded on the sides, which, as pretty as gilding is, it chips, it flakes off, it makes shuffling cards really annoying. And I have to say, they've done a very good job. Schiffer do usually do a very good job with their card stock and everything, don't they? So it's, I mean, you must have been quite excited to actually get your hands on the finished deck for that reason. It's like, yes, they didn't mess it up.
Right. Yeah, they did a nice job.
They did do a nice job. You get a fantastic, there's no little white book with this deck. You get a full-on guidebook with it, which is so interesting. Mine is already quite well thumbed because I'm going, oh, okay, it means that to me. What did Cathy want it to me? And it's, this. But I love the fact that you do give extra insight. You give like the astrological associations with the cards, lunar cycles, as well as sort of keywords and reading tips and that kind of thing, which again just sort of goes to show the full extent of the research that went into this project for you.
Tons, yeah. Well, actually, there was way more that I wanted to include in the book, but the size of the book was not going to allow it.
It would have been a massive coffee top table.
I'd love to have a coffee table, but maybe that will happen down the road. I don't know. But, yes, because I wanted to also, which isn't in this particular book, but it could be in the future, to include the how to find your numerological number that matches up with one of the major arcanas for your life symbol and or for your birthday symbol for the year. I always thought that was kind of fun and fascinating to play around with, and that is part of the one that I self-published, but we didn't have room for it in this. So maybe next time.
Yeah, if you go ahead with that, we'll definitely have to get you back on again to talk about it, because Dax is all about the numerology. So what's next for you, just quickly?
Well,
are you taking a well-earned rest?
Not really. I have, my mind goes in so many different directions. There's an oracle deck that I want to do. It's still in the beginning stages, but I want to take some existing artwork that I've already made, not from the Star Tarot, but artwork that I've had from the past, and couple it with a book. And the name of it is called The Magical Way Oracle. You'll probably have about 50 cards, but it will be more, even more so involved in nature and the underlining lessons that they have to teach us and what have you. And so it's still developing in my brain, and I haven't proposed it to anybody yet. And then there is the Rainbow Oracle deck that I was thinking about all about rainbows and how to use that in, definitely a very uplifting oracle deck.
Yeah.
There's just and then just paintings, of course, that I have stacked up in my brain that I want to do as well. So my mind never stops when it comes to doing projects. I just keep going.
I'm not surprised to hear that, yeah. I would imagine inspiration hits from all over the place.
Yeah, it does. And then sometimes, life as it has, it just sets you down, makes you, chill out for a while, which is a good thing, to quiet yourself and just, not do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Sometimes you need to be forced to take a bit of a step back and a sit down, don't you? Well, Cathy, thank you so much for joining us. I've kind of dominated the conversation. Sorry, Dax.
I was a little preoccupied. Mother-in-law is having knee surgery, so I was taking care of, messages. She was getting out of surgery, going in recovery, all these different things. So I had to do that in the background. But you did a fabulous job.
Yes.
Oh, thanks to Cathy.
It was so great having you on, Cathy. Thanks for coming.
So the Star Tarot is out next week, like I said, published by Schiffer Publishing.
Yay, Schiffer.
It's all gorgeous. It's all lovely. I really do encourage you all to check it out. I know a lot of people have said that they really do want to see if they can get their hands on it, and I've made a couple of friendly enemies because I've already got one. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Cathy. We'll have to see if we can get you on as your other projects sort of take off and just keep us updated with it all.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Awesome. And so I guess next for us, we're on our summer hiatus, so we're only doing one. We did one interview in July and this interview with Cathy today in August, and we'll be back in September. We're actually going to do a show that we had meant to do in the beginning. Speaking of decks, we're going to talk about how to choose your deck.
Yes.
So our first show in September will be, all about, how do I pick the right deck?
That would be an interesting conversation to have, yes, because there
Yeah.
are so many decks out there. We'll go through everything, all the things to consider as well, which is why I mentioned like card size and things, because that's going to be one of the things that we're talking about.
Yes, absolutely. And let's see, we're continuing with Tarot by the Numbers, our course at the Tarot Guild.
Modules.
We'll have more modules towards the end of August, and then finish up in September, maybe early October. And these are being held live, so if you want to join us, it's tarotguild.org/learn, tarotguild.org/learn. See, I can't talk. And of course, we would love for you to join the Tarot Guild as well, tarotguild.org/join. And we will see you, as far as the show here, we'll see you in September.
Yeah, we will see you with the deck launch. You're very welcome.
Thanks so much.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Kathy. Bye, Suzanne.
Bye-bye.